Hi, I'm Diane Allen, the host of This Is Me. I recently put out a promo video talking about the passion we discovered or rediscovered during the quarantine. And looking at the replies I received as well as through my Facebook page, I noticed many people have found different and creative ways to fill their time. And some have turned to, for example, music, dancing, art, crafting, painting, exercising, and cooking, among other things. The Rediscovered Passion I shared with you on my promo video for this show was cooking. I'm having a lot of fun and I'm trying different recipes. And one of the dishes that I mentioned and shared a picture of was my homemade pizza. So on today's show, by request, I'm going to make a pizza. So let's get started. So today, by request, I've been asked to make my homemade pizza. And with my homemade pizza, my toppings are going to be peppers, onions, and mushrooms. So we're going to get started. So the first thing I like to do when I make my homemade pizza is make sure I have all my ingredients out. So this way I don't have to go searching and looking for any of my ingredients or the things that I need. So I have my flour, yeast, and oil, and over here I have my toppings, and I have my sauce, and all the other things I'm going to need to make this pizza. One of the other things I like to do is to preheat my oven, and this for my pizza, it calls for a 425-degree oven. So I'm going to set my oven right now. So now that my oven is set, I'm going to start on making my crust. And one of the first things I like to make is to prepare my yeast. And the way I do that is you have to warm up some water, a cup of water, and the temperature of the water is really important because if your water is too hot, you're going to kill the yeast. And if it's not warm enough, it's not going to activate the yeast. So you really have to be careful about what temperature your water is, and it's really suggested about between 95 to 104 degrees. So I'm going to just put this in the microwave for about 30 seconds and warm it. So again, as I was saying, you have to be real careful about the temperature of your water for your yeast. One of the tips that you can also use on making sure if it's not too hot or too cold is just to put a drop on the inside of your wrist. And if it's too hot or too cold for your wrist, you either know that I gotta let this cool off, or you gotta need to warm it up. So that's another good tip on knowing if my water is too warm or too cold, is just put a drop of it onto your wrist. My water is done in the microwave. And again, you can do that little test yourself. So I have my yeast, and I know some of it comes in packs and envelopes, but if I like to buy mine's in a larger quantity, so this way you don't have to go back to the store, keep buying yeast over and over again. So if you don't, it's 2 1/4 teaspoon of dry yeast. And you're going to add your warm water to your yeast. And to that yeast, we need about a teaspoonful of sugar. And also, we want 2 teaspoonsful of oil. Now, I like using olive oil. I'm going to give that a good stir. Now, we have to let this sit for about 2 or 3 minutes to make sure that the yeast is activated, and also to make sure that the sugar is also dissolved. And what you want to see in your yeast is make sure it comes up into sort of like a puff or foam. And this way you know that your yeast has been activated and is good to go into the flour. So I'm just going to set that aside. And now I'm going to measure out my dry ingredients for my crust. So this calls for 2 1/2 cups of flour. So I've already pre-measured my flour already, so that's 2 1/2 cups of flour. And also it calls for a teaspoon of salt. So this is a 1/2 teaspoon, so I'm just making, there you go. And you want to make sure you stir up your salt and make sure that's is really incorporated into your flour. And that's good for your yeast as well. Now, there's various crusts that you can make. You can make a garlic crust. You can make wheat crusts or combinations. You know, it really kind of depends on you and what you like. Today I'm just making a regular plain pizza crust, but in the past I've made the garlic crust, and that's of course delicious. And also I've made a whole wheat crust, and that's really good, as well as it's also healthy. It gives you a little bit more fiber. But today we're just making the basic pizza crust. And you could almost see it starting to foam up. So we still want to let that rise or foam up, and while we wait before we can put it into our flour. As you can see, my yeast is now activated. You can see it bubbling up and is ready to be used. Now that my yeast is ready to be used, the next thing I want to do is I always make a little well in the middle of my flour here to pour in my yeast. And I always enjoyed making pizza with my children when they were young, and because it's a fun thing for a family to do together. And they always like putting their hands in things as well. You know, there's one thing that they can do to enjoy making their own little pizza, as well as putting their hands in sticky, gooey stuff. So we're just going to mix this, turn this around, and we're going to knead the dough. You know, once we've gotten it all in here together, mixed together. And this is something, I mean, I like putting my dough sometimes into the mixer when I don't really feel like kneading it, because the machine does have the attachment where you can knead your dough. But to me, there's nothing like putting your own fingers in your own dough and mixing it and turning it and kneading it around. It's something playful about that. So I enjoy kneading my own dough. So once we've got most of the flour mixed into a ball, we're going to take it out of the bowl, and we're going to flour our surface and just knead it a little bit. And we have to make sure we don't over knead the dough, because if you over knead it, you can also make the dough a little tough. So we're just going to flour our surface, put a ball of dough right here, and just turn it. you might just want to turn it maybe 6 or 7 times or 10 times, and that really should be enough to get it into a nice consistency. So now that we got our ball, what we're going to do is put our ball into an oiled bowl, cover it with saran wrap, and let it sit, well, they say for an hour to rise, and then we're going to come back. So as you can see, my pizza dough has risen, and we're ready for our next step. Now, just also a note, pizza crust you can let rise in various times. Some people will let it rise for 5 minutes and 15. I like to give it a little bit more time, but 5 minutes or more, you know, after you have made your dough for your pizza dough to rise is really sufficient. I just like giving my dough a little bit more time to rise. So now I'm going to take my dough out and put it on a floured surface. Another part that my kids as well as my grandkids enjoy is putting a hand in the flour and just, you know, having fun while we make our pizza. And while I'm doing this, I do want to give a shout out to all the restaurant and food workers out there who are working so hard doing our quarantine, and for those who are supporting the restaurants, I just want to say thank you so much. I know that they're all working and during this time, and we want to support them as well. So I'm going to get ready to roll out my pizza dough and get ready to put it. And I like having this marble or rolling pin. Really does a good job of rolling out my dough. And one thing about pizza dough, you know, you can work it and put it into all different types of shape. And if you don't like it, you can put it up and roll it out again, which is what I'm going to do. Again, make sure your surface is nicely floured. And I'll put a little bit of flour onto my dough, also to keep it from sticking as well. So this time I'm going to make it into a circle. That also helps in my shaping when I get ready to roll it out. Alright, put a little flour on my rolling pin to keep it from sticking also to the dough. Alright, so let's try this again. Now you just want to get a nice little shape to it. Doesn't have to be perfect, but we are looking for something round, although pizza comes in all various forms and shapes nowadays. So now that I got my dough all rolled out, the next thing I need to do is get the pizza dough onto the pizza pan. And I have a round stone pizza pan, and these are really good when you're making your pizza, to have a nice stone pan if you have one. Also, they comes in other types, but the stone is really nice. So what I do with my stone pan is I'm going to just oil it a little bit, and one of the tricks that I've learned in making a nice crisp crust is to put some cornmeal on top of that, and that'll help your crust to come out nice and crisp. Just take a little bit, just like you flour your cake pan. If you flour your pizza pan before you put your crust on there, it'll help your crust come out nice and crisp. So now my pan is ready, and I want to transfer my pizza crust onto my pan. Just very gently lift it. Maybe I could break my pan over here. Now we're gonna just try to unroll it onto and once you get it on there, you can do any adjustments that you need to do. And sometimes, you know, we do get a little holes, but again, it's dough and you can always salvage dough. So we've gotten our pizza dough onto our pan. We got our little edges tucked in, and so this way it'll hold our sauce. And again, you know, this is homemade pizza. You know, we're not trying to be professional, but we want to make it look nice. So our dough is ready. It's for the sauce, and for my sauce, I just want you to know I just use ordinarily a marinara sauce, organic, and you know, just add a little bit of something, other little spices to it, like oregano and just a little bit of garlic powder, and maybe just a little touch of sugar, you know, and that's it. You know, you don't really have to worry about, you know, making a fancy sauce, but just adding a little bit of homemade touches to your sauce, and that'll be, you know, all you really need to make a nice good pizza sauce. If you want to put any more seasonings like Italian seasonings in it, you can, but I think that just a little bit of oregano and just a little bit of garlic powder and a touch of sugar is really all that's really needed to my marinara sauce, which also I have garlic and some other vegetables in it as well. So once I mix up my sauce here, I'm just going to put it onto my pizza, and then we're going to be ready for our vegetables. I like to put it in the center and then just spread it around. Make sure you get your, you know, sure it's covered but not soaking, because it can also make the dough kind of soggy as well. So you don't want to put too much sauce, but you know, you want to put a nice amount onto it. Now the next thing I want to do is bring my cheese, and this is low moisture and it's part skim, so you want to make sure you know I do and my family do, is make sure we watch out for fat and cholesterol. So we always buy low moisture as well as partly skimmed mozzarella cheese. Also, another good cheese is goat cheese that you can use onto your pizza as well. You know, some people like putting spinach and different things, but again, you make it according to what you like. Put a nice generous amount of cheese on our pizza. Smelling good already. It's not even into the oven. Just spread it around. So again, this is one of my inspired things since we've been in the quarantine. So pizza is only one of the dishes that I've been doing. I've been doing other dishes, and I want to thank you guys for all you have, your likes and your comments on the dishes that I've made so far. It's really nice to see that people enjoy my dishes when I do post them up. So the next thing is just really putting on my different layers of vegetables. I have green peppers. And again, whatever vegetables you guys, your family enjoy or you enjoy, that's what you use. We're going to have put some mushrooms on here. no particular order, just put them on. And we're going to put some onions. So our last touches of onions, you know, just place them however you want, where you want. You know, you can use your own creative juices when you're doing this, and you know, just sort of like painting a picture. And we're just about done here, and we're going to get ready to put our pizza into the oven. Our pizza has been in the oven for 25 to 35 minutes, and you can just keep it in there until it gets nice and golden brown and the cheese is melted. So we've taken it out the oven, we're going to let it rest, and the only thing left now is for us to cut our pizza and enjoy it. Alright, so I have my pizza cutter, and we're just going to slice ourselves a nice little pizza and enjoy it. And I do want to say, while I'm cutting the pizza, as much as I enjoy making my own pizza, I also enjoy sometimes when I'm lazy and don't want to cook is to order out pizza. We have some very good pizzeria places in our neighborhood, and so from time to time we'll order out, and you know, when we're back open, we will go back out to visit those restaurants as well. But I do want to give a shout out to all the restaurants that are open and those who are delivering food during this time of quarantine. We want to say thank you, and to all the service food workers as well. So we're going to cut our pizza and take a nice bite. And again, this pizza is by order of request from my niece, Melissa. She wanted me to do the pizza on film on the show. So we're just going to take us a nice piece here. And again, to get that nice crispy crust on the bottom, we use some cornmeal. Delicious, delicious, delicious. If you tried this recipe, please let me know how it turned out. And if you're someone who makes homemade pizza, please send me a picture and any information that you would like to share about your recipe. But before we go, I do want to give a heartfelt thank you to all those who are making a difference during this COVID-19 pandemic. I want to say thank you to our healthcare workers and researchers, to the drugstore personnel, to the first responders, and those in our food industry. I want to say thank you to truck drivers and those who are making deliveries to make sure we get everything that we need. And again, until next time, I'm Diane Allen.